Okay. Just want to thank you, everybody, so much for taking time out of your day for joining us for this month's webinar. My name is Corey Hesser, and I am the Senior Project Manager with Kirkwood Continuing Education. Today, we are here with Jill Katuin, who will be speaking about leaping into confidence. She will also be doing the session for young learners during the Kirkwood Kick camps this summer, so make sure to check those out if you are interested for the little kiddos in your life. Jill launched her current business, Pause for Empowerment, to help young girls feel better about themselves by making personal development fun and relatable. Her curriculum and programs have been taught in person to over 400 young girls and boys and used by school counselors throughout the state of Iowa. So now I say we get started on why you are all here today. Jill, I'm so excited to have you, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Corey. Yeah, I'm Jill Katuin, super excited to be here, and especially during Mental Health Awareness Month. And let me start by saying you didn't land here by accident. Maybe you're here because you care deeply about mental health. Maybe it's yours, your team's, or maybe your family's. Maybe you're feeling stuck, stressed out or worn out, or you're curious about something as simple as how could a pause change everything? Can it really be that simple, a 3-step to-do list? And I'm here to say it can be. I've lived it professionally and personally. So in December of 2020, I found myself sitting with my daughter in a hospital room. She was struggling with suicidal ideation, and she had really rough suicidal thoughts. And she was 13 years old. So we were one of 4 families that day at the hospital in Waterloo, and we were waiting for one child psych bed. And let me tell you, nothing really prepares you for that moment. And all the schedules, all the to-do lists, all the work demands, they all pause. And the only thing that mattered at that moment was survival. Sometimes you get choked up, but only thing that matters is survival, connection, and that next step forward. But in that moment, in those days, the weeks, and even the years now that have followed on her healing journey, it's all really been our journey to navigate together. There's one thing that I've learned, that confidence really does not come from thinking. It doesn't come from talking about it. It really comes only from doing the thing. You got to do the thing messy, and you got to do the tiny thing, whether it's hard or not. And so I'm showing up here today with my little introduction, telling you that it might be messy. I might not do it perfect. And my biggest worry today is to call you guys grown-ups, because I work with little people, and my lessons are given to kids, girls, ages 9 to 14 typically. And so yeah, this is a little different with the audience, but with my coaching practice, I do work with the older population, the grown-ups like yourself. But let's get into this. Let's talk about some of our greatest strengths really do come from our hardest moments. And it has been tough navigating life with a kid that has struggled with suicidal thoughts. But we are one of many. And in preparation of today, knowing that it's May and the mental health awareness, I wanted to give some statistics, but I don't want slides of statistics, because we all know we know that the numbers aren't good. The stats aren't good. So let's just take just a little bit of numbers today and think about high school students, just the high school numbers. 20% of kids in high school, that 14 to 18 range, 20% have considered suicide, and 11% have attempted. So if we put that like at Linn-Mar High School in Marion, 2,000 kids say, that's 400 kids that have thought about it, seriously considered it. And these are new numbers. And 220 of them have attempted. So we're expecting our education system to help out all these kids, and it's not possible. So I put up here, why are you here? And I laugh about this question, why you're here, because in March, when I was working with some kids, I was like, let's talk about why you're here. We started off our first day together, and this young 4th grade girl said, I didn't consent to be here. And I kind of chuckled because her mom made her come. And I doubt any of you are here because your mother made you be here. But I just want you to take a second and think, have you struggled with your mental health yourself? Maybe it's someone that you love is hurting, and maybe you lead a team and you want to better support them. And maybe you are feeling stuck yourself. So trust whatever reason you're here, even if it was your mom that told you had to be here. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers this weekend. But really, truly, it's the awareness in this first next brave step is why you're here, and trust that. So confidence really does come from thinking and doing. And I popped this picture in because it's really hard talking about yourself and celebrating your special, especially from Iowa, being humble people and all. But last year I had the opportunity to share my curriculum with an entire school. And 15 years ago, I would have never thought that was something that I could have done. Had just been fired from a job, not just one job, but 2 jobs. And I would have told that person 15 years ago, stop worrying, it will all work out. And here I am doing everything that I love. I'm following my passion. I get to teach kids every day, and it's super exciting. So if you are in a setback, be thankful for it. I would have never said that 15 years ago, but do take a second and appreciate the setback that you're in, because good things can come out of it, especially if you follow my 3 steps. But let's talk a little bit why Pause for Empowerment started and the framework behind Pause for Empowerment. And you heard me talk about Allie being one of 4 kids in the hospital setting. And that's just one hospital on one day. And that happens across Iowa, across America, all the time. So our medical system is really struggling, and our education system can't keep up because the numbers are so large. So I thought, I like teaching. I was substitute teaching at the time with kids. And this is back in like maybe 2017, 2018. And I thought, is there a way that I can actually do what I want and teach the things that I like about personal development? So Pause for Empowerment became a passion project for me. And I thought, is there a way to normalize personal development and make it fun and relatable? So that's what I set out to do. And at the end of the day, all we want for our kids is to be happy and healthy. And it reminds me of that video that plays where the kids are graduating from preschool and they're saying, I want to be a farmer when I grow up. I want to be a fireman, a police officer, banker, whatever. And then the one little girl pops in and she says, I want to be happy when I grow up. And that's all we want for our kids is happy. So the Pause framework is just really simple. I won't spend too much time on it, but the framework, it's what I follow for writing my curriculum. It's writing my blogs, personal life, setting up safety plan, anything that has to do with my business, coaching practice, it follows this framework. But speaking in kids, and I'll use that language typically because I'm speaking with kids, can we make personal development fun? And I think we can. Bringing like a childlike curiosity to things. What does that look like? And advocating. This was really big because asking for what you need is so important. And we almost also have to understand the why, like beginning with the end in mind, the whole leader in me concept. We need to know these little habits. And then the U is understand your unique strengths. And with those unique strengths, this really comes out of my course called Love Your Selfie. And we really dive really deep into understanding your inner critic and naming it. And then we develop their I matter statement that I'm considered, I'm humble, I'm strong, I'm calm, I'm relatable. We really dive in and understand that. So they can't just say, I am happy because, and they can say the why that goes with that. And I have a strong business background, so I do a lot of things with standard operating procedures. I like to be organized and know why we're doing things. So bringing a safety component and a personal set of responsibilities, I guess, is so important. in your family household, and obviously with this audience, you have to have safety in your workplace. And then empower. The E is for empower. And that's exactly where I'm at today. I get to reach back and help others and share my love of personal development that anybody that's in a dark spot can get along. So trust this space that you're in right now. You're here for a reason. We're going to be together for the next 30 minutes, but hold space for your own personal development practice. We do it with our financial lives. We do it with our health, but sometimes we don't really take the time for our own personal growth and even our professional development. So take today to grab a notebook, pen, treat this as a workshop, not as a lecture, even though I'm talking at you. Follow along with some of the prompts and see what you can do with your next right step. And I added, you've probably heard some of these concepts before, but that's okay. Everybody's in a different place when they were yesterday. So however you need to apply it, just remember that. And one of my mentors always said, everything that you want is on the other side of fear. And if we can just get through the door and take that next step, that's what we're looking for. So let's dive in to the 3-step to-do list. And I added this picture last minute because I use this in the Love Your Selfie class. And if you're sitting here looking at that picture, you can probably guess which one is my daughter. She is definitely the one in the pink. And I share this with young kids, and it really lands with them because one, they know what it likes to feel like a person that stands out. But I share that because I really messed up that day. I wasn't a very good mom. I didn't pack the white shirt like the other 120 girls on the floor of the UNI basketball game that day at halftime. But it just shows that we can make mistakes, and it doesn't make me a bad mom. You can make mistakes in life. You can get fired from a job, and you can still be a good employee. So take that picture to heart. And also it represents that we can do this type of work with kids of all ages, stages, and developments. So let's dive into my secret 3-step to-do list. And I chuckle even saying it because it just seems so simple, but the meaning behind everything is important. So when Allie came home from the hospital, they give you a safety plan, and I grabbed one here. This is kind of like a safety plan that is given out when you've been in a tough situation. When you're struggling with suicidal ideation, you need to have a plan of what's going to happen next if you find yourself in that same situation. So Allie wasn't able to leave the hospital until she had a list of people she could call, and just different scenarios that would come up when she felt similar to that, and who was she going to reach out to, what were some coping strategies. And the other thing that they had her do was to get a notebook and a journal for her thoughts and different plans in place. And when she came home, that was really when the tough work started. And I told Allie, go ahead, get whatever you want. I gave her carte blanche to go ahead and pick out whatever she wanted online. And so she searched for a little bit, and she came up to me completely defeated and said, Mom, these planners, everything is for people who have their shit together. And she could barely brush her hair. And it was in that moment that I realized that she was completely overwhelmed, and she needed some easy wins in her life. And when she did do the hard stuff, we needed to be able to celebrate that and track it and see what that looked like. And she needed to get out of her own head. So that's really where the 3-step to-do list was birthed. Is instead of a planner and a journal, we really wrote down what is something easy you can do today, and what does your heart look like. And teenagers, they only think about themselves, but the truth is most of us are only thinking about ourselves. So if we can take that moment and do something for someone else, as simple as sending a text message, whatever, it helps reset the brain. So simply put, we are building confidence through momentum, courage, and connection. It's really, really that simple. So I want to take a quick deep dive into what that easy means. And we are building momentum. This is that place that we can train our brain for those easy wins, those woohoo moments, and those celebration moments. I started off telling you that, we're humble Iowans, that we don't like to brag, but it's really not about brag. This is giving fuel to your brain. And some easy examples. And remember, grown-ups, my audience is normally kids. So make your bed. And this can apply to you. Make your bed is a great way to start wins. Maybe you're on a health journey and meal planning is something that would be easy, or filling your water bottles first thing in the morning. Simple, right? And answering an email. Just opening the email and getting started is the hardest part. So we want to give more celebrations to our brain. And the science of why this works. Now, every kid, if you tell them to do something, what are they going to ask you? They're going to ask you, why do I have to do this? Or why is this important? And I love Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins is one of my favorite writers, speakers, podcasters. And I like her because she takes what's abstract and maybe a little woo-woo and puts the science to it. So that's what we're doing here, is we're breaking down why something is easy and why it's important. And main thing is we're looking for that dopamine hit. It's the reward chemical in the center of the brain. And when we think neuroplasticity, that big fancy word, we're really making new brain pathways and connections every time we spot something fun and celebrate it. So look for those happy moments. And when you compound that over time, that's what builds confidence. So the practice comes from building competency and confidence. And I laugh when I say competency because I teach this with kids, and sometimes it doesn't land because it's a big, hard word. But confidence and competency are different, because competency is the learning, the process, the getting better. And we just need to keep focusing on that. But the practice, and in the Leap into Confidence course, I have the kids write down their lifetime wins. And they're little, so it's hard to get to 100. So we work together and then we celebrate everybody's wins together. But I encourage you, take a sheet of paper out, fold it in half, because we're going to do easy wins and we're going to do hard wins. But list those wins and really take time to reflect on all of the really cool things that you've done in your life. And it's a really good exercise to do with your teams as well. If you've got a business that you started and you haven't taken time to reflect where you started and where you are now, I think it's a great place to help build momentum. So let's go into that hard step. And so this is the resilience and the resistance of the brain. And tracking it is so powerful, especially like in Allie's situation. She didn't want to go to school. And so she would start, I want to go to school for the morning, and then it would be the afternoon. And by the time her next therapy appointment, she'd gone all week. And then she'd have a teacher texting her saying, hey, they were proud of her for showing up to school the whole week. And it sounds so simple now, as she's a senior, now as a National Honor Society student and heading to Kirkwood. But just 4.5 years ago, she was refusing to go to school. She had no plans to be here. And that can be tough. So everybody's hard looks different, and asking for help. So I mentioned that she's a senior, and my hard right now is asking for help at the graduation party. I have friends that would love to help, but I don't know why it's so hard to ask. But sometimes it's the simple stuff that can be hard. And when you think about kids, I want to take a moment to talk about setting boundaries and even stepping into it and holding that integrity, because that's really tough for kids. And it's even hard for adults. There's a lot of social pressures out there. So when you're able to hold that boundary, that is really a sweet spot when it comes to building confidence. And the namesake of Leap into Confidence really came from Brian Tracy's book called Eat That Frog. And the Eat the Frog is just such a relatable thing to a kid, because a kid would be like, why would I eat a frog? And it really just breaks down what's your big task that you need to get done and focus on that. And when I work with my coaching clients, that's what I do. I meet with them on a Monday or a Friday, and we talk about what was your hard task. And if it keeps coming up, we talk about it. So why it works, bringing that science back into it, is the serotonin, and that serotonin, that happy, we're looking for happy hormones, and serotonin is another one. It's how we build resilience in our brain, and it stabilizes our mood. The serotonin is that SSRIs that people would take orally, but we can tap into this and do this on our own by accomplishing more hard tasks. We also tell our brains that we're capable, that we can do hard things, and then we can survive discomfort. And I always say they say, who are they? But successful people who live in discomfort longer is the reason why they're successful. And entrepreneurs are this way. They've just learned to live in discomfort a little bit easier than others. So practice that. That's definitely a practice. And the other thing, that we can reset our cortisol by doing hard things, which is the stress hormone. And as we're aging, that's really important to me as I'm heading into my 50s soon. We have stress hormones, and we want to make sure that we bring that down. And hello, we have anxiety. And anxiety, I always say, that shows up differently in kids. And it's the kid that's grumpy, irritable, not fun to be around. If we can teach them to slow down and just get a couple of those wins, they're not going to hit as hard later. And so let's take a deep dive into step 3, doing something for someone else. And that is that true connection mode, when people feel less alone. And these simple acts of kindness are acts of healing. And it can be as simple as just texting a friend, leaving a kind note, helping out a colleague. You can think of 100 different ways that you can help people. And let's talk science. The science why that helps is we have that oxytocin release. That oxytocin is the chemical connection in the brain. It makes you feel more bonded and more whole, less alone. And it creates like an energy shift, and you're putting more good out in the world. We definitely need more of that. The other thing that we have that I want to make a point is Caitlin Clark. She did a special with David Letterman, and David Letterman on Netflix. It was My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. And she was meeting with an educational psychologist about how she can relate to her teammates. And I just found it so profound and so simple at the same time. But David Letterman was like, all right, so you have you have this sports psychologist that is helping you on the court, getting along with your teammates and helping you perform better. And he goes, give me an example of what you work on. And she's like, well, I can give you one. And she said it was simply showing up on the court and smiling at her teammates. And simple, right? It's simple stuff that we can do that helps our brains release that oxytocin. And it's really the love hormone. But when I relate it to children, it is dropping that oxytocin and that hug. It's that brain for the hug. So we knew that it was coming. I do want you to take some time to practice what this looks like. Writing down one easy thing that you will do today, and what is one hard thing that you need to face, and who can you help today, even if it's in the smallest way. So yeah, just take a minute and think about that. And I like to say that your biggest breakthroughs are always hiding behind what you are avoiding and what you are ruminating on. And yeah, that seems to be what comes up in my coaching situations, is what we are avoiding. If we could eliminate that from our pathways, it's so much easier. And it's like doing taxes. Taxes would be sitting down and doing that. It might only take 20 minutes, but you spent 6 weeks avoiding it, and how much time and effort if you could just remove that to free up your brain space for more positive moments. So kind of coming here to the end, if I could tell you to do one thing from our session today, it would be to normalize personal development as a practice. And I included a picture from one of my small little sessions. And it doesn't have to be a big production. There's no reason that this activity could take 5 minutes. It could be an hour long. It's whatever you put into it is what you make up for it. And my other truth bomb that I wanted to drop for today was paying for a gym membership doesn't make you strong, but showing up for yourself does. And to take that a little further, if you are one of those people that have the membership that you're not using, what would it look like if you took those same dollars and donated it to somebody else or an organization for a month or several months in a row? And how would that make you feel if you release that back into the world, or you remember why you signed up for that gym membership to begin with, and you step into what you once felt and who you wanted to be, and then show up? If it was a Monday morning, you promised yourself that you're going to go to the gym and you do it, what would that feel like? What kind of difference would that be? And breaking that down, what's going to be that return on energy and your return on investment in yourself? And I'm going to promise you, either one's going to be a win, because you're going to feel good from giving it away, or you're going to feel good because you made time for yourself. So I think I rambled through that way more than I thought I did, but I'm already down here to the end of the presentation. I would love to take questions. So yeah, I want to thank Kirkwood for allowing me to come here and talk and share Pause for Empowerment. And also, Corey talked a little bit about the camps. I can, since we have a little bit of time, the camps for Kirkwood Interactive Camps for Kids. There are 4 weeks of camps that I have an option for kids. They're going to be 10 to 14. The Love Your Selfie course and Leap into Confidence will be in June in Cedar Rapids. And then the Love Your Selfie, Leap into Confidence camps will be in Coralville in July. And they're each week. So I take this material, expand it out over 12 hours. It's noon. I think it's 9 to noon for 3 hours, 4 days, Monday through Thursday. And it'll be a great time. I'm working on kintsugi, which is an art that appreciates the brokenness. So like if putting artwork back together with gold, it's a Japanese artwork. So I'm applying that, and they get to learn to write a poem using a method. So I take that same content, a little bit of what you learn here today, put it over the 4 weeks in the camps. But normally these sessions are delivered over typically 3 hours. So I don't know how I combined all of this in like 30 minutes, but I did, because I talked way too fast. But I get excited, I get nervous. I tell you, I show up messy, but I love what I'm doing. I would have never thought that I could live my passion this way, but here I am doing my thing. So, all right. Do we have questions or anything? I'm happy to answer questions. So.
I don't see anything coming in, Jill. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time today to be with us. Hopefully, we have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could this material be useful for overcoming public speaking?
Oh, you think so? I struggle all the time with public speaking. I think it would be. I think it'd be a really good thing. I am not a public speaker by any means. In fact, when I was super young, it was something I wouldn't do. I had a friend, once I had kids, I had a friend that talked me into going up in front of church and speaking. And all I had to do was just read the announcements. And I hauled Allie up, who was like 3.5 at the time. And I think Maddie was in a car seat. And when I went back to sit down, I left my kids at the front. I completely forgot what I was doing. So yeah, I think it would be a good thing, these steps to overcome public speaking. Um, yeah, that's a good
Good.
question.
Love that. And then Brittany Neese has, I just wanted to say thank you for your transparency and sharing your story.
Oh, awesome. Some days it's a lot easier than others. I've been in situations where um, I've cried, and it's anytime you do a public speaking event like this, you just um, getting the nerves out at first, and it's vulnerable. And I was telling Corey, this content, it's one thing if you're teaching a lean lesson in a Kaizen. I worked at Hertz Rent a Car, and teaching those are somebody else's principles. It's so different when you're teaching your own. It's so much more vulnerable, and kids are a pretty soft audience. So yeah, I'm glad that you appreciate the vulnerability, because that's been part of my growth and part of my personal development. So thank you.
Thank you for the question and comments.
Yes.
All right. Jill, thank you so much for presenting
Yes.
and
Thank
sharing
you.
your passion. It's been great to have you today. I am going to launch just a quick 3-question poll. I know that Jill has some resources that she's going to send over to me that I will include in the recording when I send that out to everybody that's registered or was not able to make it that registered. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, thank you all for coming today. I really hope you were able to gain some tools, and I hope everybody enjoys the weather and the upcoming weekend.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.